Welcome to ListLab. Today we're counting down 10 myths that may have grown out of real events, real places, or real people, where history and storytelling gradually merged. Some began as small truths that were retold for centuries, until they became legends known across the world. If you enjoy calm, thoughtful explorations of the past, consider subscribing and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We have other mystery and history-based lists every week. Number 10. Robin Hood. The story of Robin Hood tells of an outlaw who robbed the rich and gave to the poor, hiding in Sherwood Forest with a band of loyal companions. While the character feels larger than life, medieval records do contain references to real criminals named Robin Hood or similar variations. In some cases, the name appears to have been used as a nickname for outlaws, rather than a single identifiable person. This suggests the legend may have formed around a type of figure rather than one individual hero. England in the medieval period was filled with forest laws, harsh taxes, and social tensions, especially after the Norman conquest. Outlaws were not uncommon, and some gained reputations as folk heroes among ordinary people. Over time, ballads and poems began to shape these scattered stories into a single character. By the late Middle Ages, Robin Hood had become a familiar figure in English popular culture. His tale may not belong to one man, but it likely grew from real lives lived on the edge of the law. Number 9. The Tower of Babel. In the biblical book of Genesis, humanity attempts to build a great tower reaching into the heavens. According to the story, God confuses their language, scattering them across the world. The tale explains the origin of different languages and warns against pride and overreaching ambition. Historians believe the story may have been inspired by the great temple towers of ancient Mesopotamia. These structures, known as ziggurats, dominated the skyline of cities like Babylon. One of the most famous was the ziggurat called Etemenanki, a massive step tower dedicated to the city's chief god. Ancient writers described it as an awe-inspiring monument rising above the flat plains. To travelers and distant observers, such a structure could easily become the foundation of a powerful legend. Over generations, memories of a real tower may have transformed into a moral tale about language and human unity. The myth may not describe an actual event, but it likely grew from a very real and very visible monument. Number 8. The Amazons. Greek mythology speaks of the Amazons, a tribe of fierce warrior women who lived beyond the edges of the known world. They were said to ride into battle, fight Greek heroes, and rule their own lands. For centuries, many assumed they were purely fictional, created to represent the opposite of Greek society. However, archaeological discoveries have complicated that view. Across the Eurasian steppe, archaeologists have uncovered graves of women buried with weapons, horse gear, and signs of combat. Some of these burials date to cultures known as the Scythians and Sarmatians. These societies included women who rode, hunted, and sometimes fought alongside men. To Greek traders and travelers, such customs would have seemed unusual and even shocking. Stories about these real women could easily have grown into legends of entire nations of female warriors. The Amazons may not have existed exactly as described, but the idea behind them appears to have real roots. Number 7. The Minotaur and the Labyrinth. In Greek myth, the Minotaur was a monster with the body of a man and the head of a bull, kept inside a vast labyrinth beneath the palace of King Midas. Each year, young victims were sent into the maze as sacrifices. The story may sound purely fantastical, but archaeology offers a possible foundation. On the island of Crete stands the ancient palace of Knossos, a sprawling Bronze Age complex with hundreds of rooms and winding corridors. Early excavators were struck by its confusing layout and its strong connection to bull imagery. Frescoes and sculptures show scenes of bull leaping, suggesting that the animal had ritual importance. To later Greek storytellers, the palace may have seemed like a literal importance. Maze. Over time, memories of the complex and its rituals could have been woven into the legend of the labyrinth. The monster itself may be symbolic, representing danger, tribute, or fear of foreign power. The myth may not be real in detail, but its setting almost certainly was. Number 6. El Dorado. El Dorado is often imagined as a lost city of gold hidden deep in the jungles of South America. Early European explorers were obsessed with finding it, launching costly and dangerous expeditions. However, the legend originally referred not to a place, but to a person. Spanish accounts describe a ruler of the Muisca people who covered himself in gold dust during a ritual at Lake Guatavita. He would sail into the lake on a raft and cast offerings of gold into the water. Over time, the story changed. The gilded man became a golden city, and then an entire golden kingdom. Archaeological discoveries, including the famous Muisca raft artifact, support the existence of such rituals. These finds suggest the legend began with real ceremonies and real gold offerings. As the story spread, imagination filled in the rest. El Dorado may never have existed as a city, but it was born from genuine cultural practices. Number 5. The Great Flood. Stories of a great flood appear in cultures around the world, from the Middle East to Asia and the Americas. One of the oldest written versions comes from the Epic of Gilgamesh, a Mesopotamian text dating back thousands of years. In it, a hero builds a boat to survive a divine flood, meant to destroy humanity. The story bears striking similarities to the later biblical account of Noah. Archaeologists have discovered evidence of large floods in ancient Mesopotamian cities. Layers of silt found at sites like Shuruppak suggest serious flooding events in the distant past. These were not global disasters, but they would have been devastating to local populations. In a flat river valley, even a single major flood could wipe out settlements and reshape the landscape. Over generations, memories of such disasters could blend into one powerful story. The Great Flood myth may be the echo of many real catastrophes compressed into a single narrative. Number 4. The Trojan War. For centuries, the story of the Trojan War was known mainly through epic poetry, especially the Iliad. It told of heroes, gods, and the famous wooden horse used to trick the city of Troy. Many scholars once believed the entire story was fictional. That view changed in the 19th century, when archaeologists began excavating the site of ancient Troy in modern Turkey. They discovered multiple layers of cities built on top of each other, some destroyed by fire or conflict. One of these layers dates to the late Bronze Age, roughly the period the war was traditionally placed. This suggests that a real city existed and that it may have faced destruction. While the details of the war remain uncertain, there is now a clear historical setting for the legend. The Trojan horse itself is likely a symbolic or exaggerated element. Still, the myth appears to rest on the ruins of a real place. Number 3. King Arthur. King Arthur is a legendary ruler of Camelot, leader of the Knights of the Round Table. His stories are filled with magic, heroic quests, and legendary swords. Yet some historians believe the legend may be rooted in a real figure from post-Roman Britain. After the Roman Empire withdrew, Britain entered a turbulent period of invasions and local warfare. Early medieval texts mention battles against Saxon forces, sometimes linked to a leader named Arthur. These references appear centuries after the events, making them difficult to verify. Some scholars think Arthur may represent several different war leaders combined into one figure. Others suggest he was entirely symbolic, created to represent resistance and unity. By the Middle Ages, his story had grown into a grand chivalric legend. Even if Arthur was not a single historical king, his myth likely emerged from a very real period of conflict. Number 2. King Midas. The story of King Midas is famous for the golden touch, the power to turn anything he touched into gold. It is often told as a warning about greed and unintended consequences. Behind the myth, there appears to have been a real ruler. Ancient Assyrian records mention a king called Minotaur of Mushki, believed to be the same figure the Greeks called Midas. He ruled in the region of Phrygia, in what is now central Turkey, believed to be the same figure the Greeks called Midas. He ruled in the region of Phrygia, in what is now central Turkey. Archaeologists have uncovered the remains of the Phrygian capital at Gordion. There they found a massive burial mound associated with the royal family. The tomb contained rich objects, showing the wealth and influence of the kingdom. Such displays of luxury could easily inspire stories of a king surrounded by gold. Over time, the reality of wealth may have become the fantasy of a magical touch. Number 1. The city of Troy. The legend of Troy stands at the top because it offers the clearest link between myth and archaeology. For centuries, it was known only through poetry and ancient storytelling. Then, excavations at Hisarlik in modern Turkey revealed the remains of a real city. In fact, archaeologists found several cities built one above another, showing a long and complex history. One layer shows signs of destruction around the late Bronze Age. This period roughly matches the traditional date of the Trojan War. While the details of the conflict remain uncertain, the existence of the city itself is beyond doubt. This makes Troy one of the strongest examples of a myth rooted in reality. The legend may be embellished, but its foundation is very real ground. Which of these myths do you think has the strongest connection to real events? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more countdowns from ListLab. Why not check out our other lists, such as our fantastic possible Atlantis location theories or unsolved British mysteries?